Hey everybody, welcome back to Hoffman Leatherworks. Today we're going to be working on a pancake style holster for a Glock 48. And here you see I have the pattern. With this one I used my laser cutter to just almost like printing the pattern onto the leather instead of using the paper pattern. If you do end up purchasing the pattern itself from either Etsy or online store, wherever, you'll get both. You'll get the SVG files, so you can cut it, mark it, or use the paper patterns like we all do. I just turn the laser cutter way down and just so it leaves a mark on the leather. So instead of doing the paper, we did that, and go ahead and punch out the holes, and then now I'm just cutting the actual holster out of the leather. As you can see, I leave off the belt slots on one side. The marking. Same way with the paper. I'll only punch one side. In this case, I do them both at the same side so that I know that they're 100% lined up. So we'll go ahead and get this cut out. And remember, if this is your first time, hit subscribe or like. Hit the alert button. But there we go. We got the pattern cut out. Now we'll move on and we'll glue the two pieces together. Again, if you get the pattern for this holster like all of mine, I give you two options for the outside of the holster. One is the same size as the inside, but the other one's just a little bit oversized, which is the one I'm using here. It just allows for a little bit better fit, I think. But people like both having the option of doing it either way. So we'll go ahead and let this dry for a few minutes, just till it's not wet anymore, super sticky. And I use these awls to line up the holes, as you can see there. So we'll go ahead and get it glued together. You see I still haven't punched the belt holes yet. I like to do that after everything's glued. And here too you see that the front piece is a little bit bigger. Just like I said, allows a little bit more room for that gun to fit in there. It's not so tight, and the leather doesn't have to stretch so much. I feel it gives you a better holster, but other people like it the other way, so that's cool. So we'll just go ahead and get all this glued down and everything lined up. And at this point I'll sand down the edges just to make sure everything's even. It's always going to be off a little bit from when you're cutting it, so I just have a Dremel with a little sanding pad on it, and I'll just go I don't work this so that this is the final edge. I just kind of get it in there and get everything pretty good at this point. I don't think there's a need to do much more. Just get everything kind of even. And I take care of the edges at this point. This is just another step in the refining of the edges of your holster. here's when I punch the holes. Just use a little anvil. That way I can punch both pieces of leather at once, and then I know that the belt slot hole is perfectly lined up. If you punch them separately, I feel they just never line up. Not perfectly anyway. So at this point I usually dye the leather. Usually use the airbrush. Feel it gives you a little bit better coat, and you don't waste so much dye. Some people like to dip it. Others, do it by hand with a dauber or something. But I don't know. I think this is the way to go. You with dipping you use so much, which I don't believe you really need to, and it's hard to get it if you do it with a dauber. It's kind of hard to get it, really consistent, especially certain colors, the lighter colors. Seems like it's pretty hard. So I just use an airbrush and spray it on. At this point, it kind of depends on where I'm at in the production cycle. I usually have 5, 6, 10 of these holsters going in different stages of, complete. I may leave it overnight. I may have to stitch it up a little bit quicker. I think this one I left for about 5 or 6 hours. So I like to just put it in the stitching pony here, and I'm using a kind of a medium gray thread with the black on this one. So just do a standard saddle stitch. Get it all tightened down. Nothing really new or exciting at this point, but I've been seeing comments. People like to see the whole process on every one of these holsters, so I try to do the whole process. That of course includes the stitching. So there we go. We got her all stitched up. We'll go ahead and dunk it in the water. I leave it sitting there for a couple minutes. I don't know. I don't think it's critical. You don't have to put a timer on it, anything. I don't. It's just water that sits on my workbench. It's not warm or anything. I've heard people say they needs to be warm water. I don't know. I've made hundreds and hundreds of these holsters and other wet molded leather pieces for years, and I've always just used. I've tried hot water. I don't see a difference. Warm water. So we'll go ahead either way. Get that all wetted up real nice, and use the blue gun. It's a Glock 48. Go ahead and get it in there, and if you see, I got a little handmade press, just some wood with some foam in there. I use some pretty good clamps. I think they're like 600 pounds each. That's what they clamp. But we'll go ahead and clamp it down and leave it in there anywhere from 15 minutes on. Again, it's one of those things. Do whatever you want. I leave it in as long as, depending on production schedule, and I got a bunch of these different sets of clamps, so it seems like there's always something in there going. And I think I left this one for about an hour. Again, really no need to, so we'll pull it out, and you don't need to have this little clamps. But it helps. It kind of gets you a jump start on the molding process. You'll see here it comes out, fairly well defined. Go ahead and do a little hand molding and kind of touch it up a little bit and make sure everything's the way you want it. This one is for a right-handed carry, so I let it dry. Again, I let them air dry sometimes overnight, however long, depending on production. I also have a little toaster oven. I put it on the lowest setting and leave it sitting there for about an hour, and that dries it up pretty quick if I'm in a hurry. So go ahead and do some more work on the edges here. I use saddle soap. Get a sponge a little damp and put on saddle soap, and I hit it with the Dremel. Got a little slicker on the end of the Dremel, and again, I always look at the edges as a process. I do it in many different steps at different times to get a good edge on there. Then I usually hit it with the hand slicker after that, and this will be the final coat. Put it on. I use the airbrush again. Put on the final seal coat, and then let it dry a little bit and hit it with the brush. Remember, hit the subscribe button and the like button. That helps us out here. But hit it with the hand brush for a little bit, just till you're happy with it, and there you go. You get a nice snap in there and holds in really nice. There you go. You got a nice holster for a Glock.